Film? Are you gonna let me film? Sweet boy? Yeah, I'm gonna put you down, okay? Hello everyone, I'm Dawn. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for visiting with me today. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel, The Cutting Board. We do all kinds of things here. We do vlogs, Disney content, a lot of Disney content coming up, true crime, DIY, SFX makeup, food and cooking content, all kinds of stuff. In this video, I'm going to talk about the documentary Mommy Dead and Dearest. I know it seems kind of like beating a dead horse at this point, but this is something that I promised my subscribers a while ago, and I'm just now getting to it. So I thought, what the heck, we'll do it now. Mommy Dead and Dearest is a 2017 documentary directed by Aaron Lee Carr, and it is about the unaliving of Dee Dee Blanchard, the mother of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Gypsy Rose and her boyfriend Nicholas Godijon conspired to unalive Dee Dee, and the entire thing was planned by Gypsy Rose, and this documentary dives into it, but in my opinion it is skewed more sympathetic to Gypsy Rose and really tries to paint Dee Dee out to be a supervillain. Dee Dee was absolutely no angel, but based on what we all now know, she wasn't the venomous monster Gypsy Rose and her defense team want us to believe she was. To me, this documentary just shows us how twisted and sociopathic Gypsy is, and it shows us how easily the truth can be twisted into something that suits an individual's narrative. Shift perception and gain sympathy for someone who may not really deserve it. I am in no way diagnosing Gypsy Rose. This is just based on my own research and is completely my opinion based on what I've seen, what I've read. Gypsy shows a lack of empathy for others, attempts to control others with manipulation. She uses or attempts to use charm and charisma to manipulate lies for personal gain. She shows signs of shirking responsibilities, a sense of superiority, doesn't seem to feel any guilt, and has no regard for right and wrong. These are extremely similar to symptoms of psychopathy. However, psychopathy is not an official mental health condition. So other than antisocial personality disorder, she could have borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, or narcissistic personality disorder. And she's not the only one, but she would have to admit that there's something not right and seek actual psychiatric help, which people with those disorders won't always do, because they would have to admit to themselves that they have something wrong with them. And they don't do that. There's nothing wrong with them. They're perfect. I do know that she said she was in therapy, and what goes on in those sessions is no one's business. But people seem to believe it's not working. Me personally, I don't know. I only get glimpses of her life, as do all of you. We don't see her every day nonstop. It seems like we do. So we have to make sure we're separating our feelings towards Gypsy and using our brains to critically look at her behavior, what limited access we have to it. But then again, maybe that it doesn't matter, because she's still someone who unalived her mom, whether she wielded the weapon or not. And it's really hard to look past that. At least for me it is. In this documentary, the crime and aftermath are explored, but again, leaning towards Dee Dee being a demon. It paints Dee Dee in a very negative light, and though she was, again, definitely no angel, at the time of her death, she was sick and weak. This documentary opens with the beginning of Gypsy Rose's interrogation. The caption states she's 19, but of course we all know that she actually is 23 at this time, and so does she. She knows how old she really is. period.
Your mom's dead, okay? Now, what I want to ask you is, your mom's passed away, okay? And she's deceased, all right? Now, what I want to ask you, did you have involvement in this? Okay? Now, hang on, listen to me for just a second, okay? I want you.
There's the clip of her acting surprised at the news of her mom's death. It honestly enrages me. It's so performative and psychotic.
A cancer survivor and passionate young lady, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, from Springfield, Missouri, to the stage.
And I always said, you're the reason I was born to be your mama.
And then there's a clip of her and Dee Dee at the Relay for Life. This further enrages me. The American Cancer Society's Relay for Life is a volunteer-driven event, and people, including myself, worked really hard at these events year after year, and their fraud just disrespected everyone involved. A representative from the American Cancer Society only said that, they are shocked and saddened, but, would not say any more about it. Aaliyah Woodmansey speaks, which is another thing that enrages me too, because they, Dee Dee and Gypsy, tried to paint Aaliyah as a bad guy. During her interrogation on Gypsy, Gypsy accused her of being her bully.
Aaliyah's worried about you?
Aaliyah? Are you kidding me?
Look at me. Look at me.
Aaliyah's always been a bully to me.
Okay, but look at me. This time is different. This time is a lot different. She's very concerned about you, sweetheart.
In her entire interrogation, her hours-long interrogation, she never mentions being forced to stay in a wheelchair and being forced to pretend she was sick. She never says anything about all the unnecessary hospitalizations and all the unnecessary medications. She never said anything about her mom lying about her age. She never said anything about being handcuffed and dog chained to the bed. She never talked about her mom keeping her head shaved. Now, she has said she was in a wheelchair because her mom said she was paralyzed from the waist down. But she has also said her mom made her stay in the wheelchair, claiming it was because of the muscular dystrophy. And it's been said at other times it was the chromosome disorder that was making her dependent on the wheelchair. So many reasons for one thing. But in court at the arraignment, the prosecutor says they, Nicholas and Gypsy, planned and went through with the killing of Dee Dee so that they could be together. They didn't say it was to protect Gypsy, from Dee Dee. It wasn't about the non-existent Munchausen by proxy until her lawyers said it was. It is true that Gypsy does have a chromosomal disorder, and there are many different types of chromosomal disorders, but they can result in symptoms that lead to a few of Gypsy's issues and her procedures that warranted the treatment she received. The feeding tube, for example, a trait of her chromosomal microdeletion is short stature. Gypsy is under 5 feet tall. Dee Dee did use the condition and built on Gypsy's condition, to make the world think she was much sicker than she actually was. But she didn't make her sick. She had a pantry full of sealed medication and medical supplies. sealed. Look at the crime scene photos and you will see what I'm talking about. And that was pointed out by a subscriber of mine. Rod doesn't understand basically saying you don't just kill your mother because you want to be with your boyfriend. First of all, that actually happens. Kids kill their parents for all kinds of small reasons, not just a boyfriend, but other reasons. It's rare, making up for less than 4% of homicides, but it does happen. September 2017, Andrew Wilson killed his mom for not allowing him to keep a puppy. March 2012, Kit Durant killed his mom. Daniel Petrie killed both his parents in October 2007. In 2013, Rachel Hudson shot her mom. Heather Mack killed her mom in 2014. And none of these killings were, because of ABUSC. And again, Gypsy never mentioned any ABUSC in her interrogation. That web was not spun until her lawyers came along. She does say, when being interviewed in this documentary, that she didn't realize it was ABUSC. But I do believe that was the idea her attorneys put in her head, or that she decided to start going with after thinking on it for a little while, being in prison, having time to think. It's unfair and, in my opinion, unethical to diagnose someone with something like Munchausen by proxy when they are passed away and not here to defend themselves or get evaluated by a mental health professional, especially when the evidence we are all seeing now points to that really not being the case. It's one thing to speculate, but no one can say definitively that Dee Dee had Munchausen by proxy, and she was never diagnosed with that while living. And again, Gypsy never, not one time in her hours-long interrogation, mentioned being, forced to be in a wheelchair or being made to be sick. At the time it happened, it was about getting away from Dee Dee for whatever reason, being free of her, being an anchor in Gypsy's life. And I think, at least this is a theory, that she knew the con was going to come to light eventually, that they couldn't keep it going forever, and if Dee Dee's con was found out, it would be discovered that Gypsy was in on it too. She says it breaks her heart, but at this point of the documentary, did they, Rod and Christy, know Gypsy knew about the con and was an active participant in it? Did they have blinders on? Do they still have blinders on? I think Rod does. I don't know about Christy. Or is Christy, at least Christy, kind of picking up where it left off? Or did they know about it the whole time? Or do they really believe Dee Dee had MBP? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. I think maybe they all are grifters in some way. This is all a big game to them. That's how I feel. They show the clip of her jumping off the porch into the snow.
Hello, everybody. This is Gypsy Rose reporting from Aurora, Missouri. I am about to dive off our porch into the pile of snow. You ready? All right! Yeah!
It's hard to answer a lot.
I know this has been discussed a lot in the past, but I haven't talked about it. So her movements indicate in that clip that she knows that she's supposed to pretend there's paralysis or something wrong with her legs. She's playing the game. It's all part of the con, and she's been in on it for years. Aaron, in the documentary, states it's hard to answer questions about who Gypsy really is because she was somebody else for such a long time, and now she's a completely different person. I don't buy that. I don't believe that, not for a second. She might be a little more criminally sophisticated now since being in prison, but she's the same deceiver she was before. She's just probably a lot better at it now. In her interview with Aaron, Gypsy says it's her first time being honest, and she wasn't even completely honest with her attorneys. I think that that's very telling, personally. She's asked to describe her mom, and she says unique and overprotective. So her ABUSCR was overprotective. That's kind of weird. When we hear about the medications and the treatments, it sounds horrific. It really does. It does. And honestly, we will never really know the actual truth. We'll never know. Only 2 people know the full truth, and one of them is dead, and the other one is a known liar. We can't believe anything she says. Nicholas doesn't know the whole story. He was toyed with and lied to, so what he knows is still very limited. Dr. Mark Feldman gives his opinion also, but he is using the information provided to him by Gypsy's attorneys. So I don't really trust his opinion. He may be completely reputable, but he can only analyze what he's being shown. That's the only thing he can analyze, and only analyze using information he's been told. The attorneys do discuss the medical records with Rod and Christy, but this was Dee Dee malingering, not her having Munchausen by proxy. It was all part of the con, again. In this documentary, they do speak to family members who they don't have a very positive opinion of Dee Dee. They don't. But remember, Dee Dee was a con artist before Gypsy came along, and we'll uncover more of that in a later video. But family members weren't fond of Dee Dee because she was kind of a snake. And Gypsy talks about being afraid of her mom. Whether, she really was or not would be pure speculation, but I understand being afraid. I was afraid of my mother. She wasn't physically violent, but she was emotionally violent, and it was very scary. So I understand being afraid, but with her saying she was afraid, is that her manipulating our fear, our fear, the viewer, or was she really afraid? Also, she talks about VisionCon and Dan telling her to pack her stuff and go with him. But it is my understanding from information about Dan that he did not say that. It was what she wanted. And she said she went to the bathroom the night it happened and got in the fetal position and covered her ears. But didn't she say she went in there to shave everything for Nicholas? I'm confused. Also, in the interrogation, she has weird bruises and marks on her body. I think, and this is just a thought, I think she purposely had him make those marks on her so she can use that against him as insurance. And mailing the knife to his house, I feel like she did that so Nicholas would get caught with the weapon. There's the famous brownies video also.
Hi, honey. I'm feeling it. He's eating a brownie. But later he will be eating me.
She said the night of her mom's unaliving, he R-worded her, but less than 24 hours later, she's laughing with him, filming him in a hotel room, eating brownies. I also want to touch on this, and I'll probably talk about this more in a later video. I am not one that wants to count Dee Dee as an evil mom, but I think people need to acknowledge something. Just because someone appears nice, loving, kind, sweet, and thoughtful does not mean that's the same person behind closed doors. So we can say that we don't believe Gypsy was ever ABUSCD, but there is absolutely no way any of us can know for sure. So I'm not going to say she was never ABUS. All I can say is I don't believe she was. But if the supposed mistreatment is what Gypsy wanted to get away from, she could have just left. I know the argument is, well, Dee Dee would have found her. At this point, Dee Dee was weak, suffering from multiple ailments. Gypsy could have just left with Nicholas. I believe she didn't want to do that because the grift would be found out and it would be discovered that Gypsy was in on it. I know it might seem like I don't have any sympathy for Nicholas. I do, to a point. I think his story is very sad. He believed it was love and was fooled by Gypsy. Prisons are full of guys who was fooled by their own Gypsy. But he knew it was wrong. He didn't want to do it. He tried to get her to just run off with him. But she insisted on the kill. And people bring up his, different sides where was the side of him that Gypsy obeyed? He didn't exist. Yes, it's a shame and it's very sad, but I am not one of those that think he deserves a new trial. He said he killed Dee Dee in the interrogation, and people who unalive people belong in prison, at the very least. And yes, I think that should include Gypsy. I do. I believe Gypsy is a dangerous manipulator, and Nicholas is one of her victims. And I'm sure that she learned how to hone this craft while in prison. And I think Mommy Dead and Dearest falls flat. It doesn't tell the whole story, and that whole story will never be told. Now, I realize when it was made, there wasn't really that much known about what was going on. We just had a handful of information. So, Gypsy can't tell it. She's not trusted. And I think most people believe that she would lie even if she said, hey, I'm coming clean. I think that there are some YouTubers, especially Becca Scoops, that tell the story appropriately and very well. And I think that there are content creators that have great information and passion about the topic. And yes, I include Fancy in that could get together and, providing tempers were managed and personalities didn't clash, and get together and create an outstanding documentary about Gypsy Rose that would truly show as honestly as possible what the real story likely is. Because no, none of us can say definitively what exactly happened. But if HBO can come out with Mommy Dead and Dearest and rub dirt on Dee Dee's name like that, someone should come out with a well thought out, well organized documentary showing what's been discovered since 2015. That was a long time ago. Hopefully that made sense to you. Someone should get some backing to these YouTubers to create something. I really believe that they should do that. I think that, and again, yes, I do include Fancy in this. I think that these people could get together and make a brilliant documentary. Again, there would have to be some clarity on leadership and roles and stuff, but I think that I think they could do that. I do. But anyway, that's it. I hope this made sense to you. I'm flushed. I'm flushed, but I'm gonna go. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to everyone later. Bye.